Hello folks, I'm L.A. Little, and this is your daily TA wrap, where we take a look at these markets from a neoclassical perspective and ask ourselves, what happened today? What does it tell us about tomorrow? I do the show 4 times a week. Do it Monday through Thursday, live at 9 o'clock Eastern Time here from the base of the Rocky Mountains. Folks, today was another day of a big up. We've had 5 out of 6 days, I think it is. They keep rolling. We got the votes going on in the Senate tonight, and also over in the House. It looks like it's going to take place. So they're going to get the government back open. So we're getting the rally into the news. Now the question is, do you get the rally after the news? Last night it was mixed. Looked like we could get some sort of a pullback, although it was mixed signals. There was a couple things that looked like they could pull back, and it just didn't happen that way. So when you think about it from that perspective, what did it tell us today? Well, it told us that the market is stronger than we thought it was. Certainly what we thought it was last night. So Dow Jones almost 206 points higher, 15,373. The S&P's 23.5 higher, 1721. S&Ps, they got deep enough into that bar and they just kept going today. The bar we've been looking at. We had composite 45.5 higher, 38, 39.5. The NDX 37. That's about percent and a quarter, percent and 15. 30. What is that? 32.81.5 in the Russell. They were all up a good percent in a third or so. 12 points, 12.8 points higher, 1092, almost 1100 on the Russell at this point. If we flip over here and take a look at these indexes and what they look like. So here's the S&P. Remember last night the S&P came back. It got up in there for a couple bars, came back, got back underneath it. Looked like we might get some sort of an attempt to pull back. But remember, we had volume up there, so it was a mixed signal. We can go back up and test. Well, test we did. We went right back up into it and all the way. Now, as deep as we are, the only thing left is the highs. The high here of the 20th, 1725, and the high here of the 18th, which is 1729. That's the target at this point. Doesn't want to pull back, folks. We've seen this sort of stuff before. We're doing it again. And this is despite what I take as earnings being subpar. We haven't really, and I know they always lower the estimates, and I know that a lot of that stuff is going on, which is always the case. But what we haven't seen is any kind of numbers that were really juicy numbers and reactions to them that were good reactions. I mean, for the most part, this market has struggled with respect to earnings. Now today, with this blast off, and I guess with the idea here that now we have the last hurdle has been lifted and this market's going to be able to run now into the fourth quarter with the huge gains already this year. I guess the idea is now we got to buy them, right? Because they jumped with a vengeance at the financials today and the energy and some of the other names and got the huge push, never gave any of it up. If I look at this now, it's going to go after those numbers. It's going to go after this. Well, it's going to try to get to the top. That was what we were talking about before, 1729. So that's the bar it's going to try to get to. If I look over at the NDX, actually, yeah, I'll skip the Dow right to start with. The NDX, remember, came, tested, fell back. That was the one that was giving us some sort of a reversal signal. The volume was a little bit lighter, if I remember right. Yeah, it was. But today, hey, no, we're going higher, and it just turns and goes back the other way. So you really haven't even got an ABCD structure yet on any of this, right? I mean, straight up. There's not even a B point yet. IXIC, the NASDAQ, remember it was testing. Today it got over the top as well. Tested into it twice. Failed yesterday. Less volume. No problem. Go higher. I'll go back to the Dow and then I'll hit the Russell. The Dow really 300 points higher. Another straight up shot. It gets over this price point, which was the last one. It's going into this big bar now, which is 15,448. So as the weakest two come up, right, that's going to give you the measure of just how far this thing's going to go, because if anything should fail, it should be those, and those would be the ones that we'd see the failure in. But if we look at the Russell also tried to pull back yesterday. What does it do today? Picks up volume, goes over the top. So that was a retest regen into the big bar yesterday, and then flips around and regenerates higher. And if I remember right, it actually had more volume yesterday on the way back. Doesn't matter. Nothing seems to matter except for price wants to gravitate higher. So a couple of reads last night turned out to be wrong, which tells us the market's just stronger than we think. And right now, that's just the way it is. And we've had a lot of mixed signals probably for, it seems like 3 weeks now. No clean, not very many clean signals. Most of them, it could do this or it could do that, which is very hard to trade into and invest into, when you get both sides. Tonight, you got a much cleaner signal in these, in that they want to try to go higher. So if they fail to do that, then of course that would be another tell, in that it just looked like it wanted to go higher, right? But right now, that's the signals, and that's what they're showing us. I don't see anything out here to stop it from a little bit more gravitation. Now, the one thing you do have, well, you have two things. One is you have the potential for the sell the news, right? Because usually you buy the rumor, sell the news. And they've been, you can't look at this chart and say they haven't been buying the rumor. It's been a straight up shot for 5 days. So if that's the potential, that's one thing. The other potential is, as we noted last night, a lot of these sectors look a lot worse than a lot of these stocks look a lot worse than the individual sectors. So remember the IYT we were looking at last night, and tonight it's shooting up there trying to go for the highs. But if I go look at the stocks outside of FedEx, which is the one that is of large weighting, CSX reported last night they were down 1.5% today. They couldn't hold their gains. And so when I look at that, and I look at, like, I think it was JB Hunt that got a little bounce back today, but fell on earnings the morning before, yesterday morning. So when I look at those things, the stocks aren't performing with respect to earnings for the most part. And tonight was no exception. We had more earnings tonight. And let's pop over to those right quick and just take a look at what some of these look like. They weren't good. And remember now, yesterday we got earnings on tech stocks, and in particular the chips, the Intel. What was the other one? The LLTC. Intel, being a large weighting, it actually flipped around, found buyers, right? Because when the general market goes up, you get basket orders that tend to pull these higher, the large weightings, because they're the ones that get the basket. So INTC, but if you look at like LLTC, linear, they couldn't do anything, right? They didn't break out the bottom, but they couldn't even get back up, and they closed lower on the day. One sector that's doing well, and I've seen it in my stocks, I see it here, even with a beaten down stock like Noble, decent little rise, not bad. Noble Energy. Another one that was in the energy sector, I can't remember what the name was. I'm looking for it here, I don't see it. But anyway, the energy sector is one of the stronger ones. Rest of the market today, after hours type earnings, let's see here. So let's look at the chips first. There was Xilinx. Let's see what Xilinx did. It was down after hours. Let's see what the chart looks like on it. It was down 2.5%. And that was after it was up today. So Xilinx, that traded down to down 118.45.19. which means it's going to go right after these two lows. Break of those lows takes it back to this low, September 4th. So Xilinx wants to try to come back down. And if you go over and look at them on a weekly, they don't look bad. But this is what the whole market looks like, right? Everything or the majority has been pulled higher and higher and higher. So if you can't rise on your earnings, then what's going to keep the market going, right? If the majority of the stocks can't rise on their earnings, that tells us that there's fewer and fewer that are pushing this thing higher, and that's going to be a problem at some point. SanDisk was actually a winner today. That was another one we wanted to look at, was a chip. That's memory, I believe, mostly, and they're at their highs and hanging there, and on the weekly it's the same thing. The other big one today, probably the biggest report after hours, was IBM. IBM, another one of the bellwethers, just got taken to the cleaners after hours, down 175.45. If that holds tomorrow, that's going to break out this low. And if you go look at the weekly, and this is one of the largest weightings in the Dow, if you look at the weekly, it's going to blow out the lows here again too. So, and if you go all the way over and look at a monthly, you're seeing this rounded top starting to play, right? Just kind of rounding back down. IBM looks to be in trouble to me, and that's, the Dow would have been hurt a lot worse had they not did the rejiggering, I guess, because this was like 16% of that index before that. Now it's not nearly as much. Now it's heavy in financials, which is what got it running today. What was the other ones this afternoon? Oh, eBay. eBay, another tech stock. eBay gets hit after hours. They traded down. Where's eBay? eBay traded down 6%, down to 50.70 after hours. Down here going after this low, right? And eBay, if you go look at it on a weekly, is big range at the top. It's going to come down here and test all these lows tomorrow. So that's eBay. So you can see, a lot of the big names just aren't doing it. Now, some of them did. Abbott Labs actually did better than I expected. Let's see if it held that swing point it was trying to break, and it did. So Abbott gets a swing point break. That's going to push it back up to the top of its range, which is about 38 and 3/4. That was probably the strongest one. Another one that did well after hours, or at least didn't succumb to selling, 76.57 was the close after hours, so right about where it closed. This is AXP, American Express. Those were the big names after hours. So now let's go back and look at the sectors. So most earnings just aren't really getting that much juice into the market. Certainly not on the report themselves. Some of them are getting juice afterwards. For example, two more big names here. I was talking about the financials doing so well. JPM was one of them that really got some juice today. Back up there over the swing point highs, it looks like. And that's two swing point highs, and that one's going to try to get up a little bit farther. Wells Fargo goes up and fails. This is one of the heaviest weightings in that sector. So into the resistance, can't get over it and stay over it, back down. So we're seeing mixed signals at best, and actually most of these earnings not really juicing these stocks. So going back to the sectors, semiconductors. Well, here's the IYT. We saw it get up. It's going to go after the highs. The semiconductors, they look like they were going to try to come back last night. What do? They do come back and then simply turn around and go right back to the highs. Semiconductors still aren't giving it up. I wonder if the Xilinx and some of these others that are about to come out. You got Google tomorrow night. Is that going to put a crimp in this tech sector? The semis, Google doesn't have anything to do with that. It does to a certain degree, but not really. It's more about advertising, and actually it's a better tell on the economy than the chip sector. But the chips will follow the rest of the tech sector as well. XLB, this one was a 2-bar reversal and doesn't even care, just heading up. more strength than we think. Going to try to get up into the resistance zone. XLE actually made new highs. This one was strong last night, and it truly was strong. Gets over the highs. So that's over the highs and closes over them, doesn't it? Looks like 85.74. Yeah, it did, and it's got the volume. So that's a clean breakout, and that's a nice pattern. Of course, it's stretched like everything, but you know, things can stretch a long way, as we know. So that doesn't mean anything yet. XLI couldn't get going today. GE is going to be reporting Friday. We'll see if that moves this sector. If I look over at the financials, now the financials have really been the ones struggling. If they kick into gear, then I guess we can get that big push in the fourth quarter. And we saw volume come into them again. So they had volume at the bottom, right? They get a nice big push on volume a week ago. And then today you got volume coming back into them again. That certainly looks like it's going to test the highs. And those highs are going to be highs both on the daily and the weekly. So if they can get over them, that will make a difference for the S&P 500. XLK, I didn't look at it, but I'm assuming it got over its highs today. I mean, from yesterday, and it did. It's going up to top of resistance, and volume's not bad. So sector-wise, kind of echoes the indexes. The only thing that doesn't echo indexes and sectors, XLP looks like it's going to go into that bar at least. Not that far away, 40.99. XLU, the only thing that doesn't look good is the individual stocks. It's kind of funny. You got a whole market bar reversal last night, not to be. Back up all the way over highs, and the volume expands as it does it. Another shot higher here, and this is a sector I do like, but you know, I couldn't have told you this from the read last night. It looked like it was going to come back some. So when I see those kinds of things, it's like, okay, you just got to go with it, folks. Until it doesn't do it anymore, you just got to keep with it. And so if you're erring, you got to err on the long side. XLY testing the high, 61.16, 61.21, got over it. Let's see, volume here was 5.5, yeah, about the same. All right, so what can I say? You know, I've been perplexed, not so much perplexed, but unable to make very good calls of late. Primarily because we were so news driven and had so many mixed signals as a result of it. Now we're actually getting a fairly clean set of signals tonight. The only thing that's the caveat is that the news is out, which could invite a sell the news, so a little pullback potentially. But the market is telling us it wants to go higher, and in particular the S&Ps want to try to hit those highs. If they do that, you know, that will be the last spot for a quote-unquote failure to take place. Let me pop over to the UUP and see what it looks like. So it goes over and fails about the same volume. So at high was 21.76. It got to 21.77. 710. Well, it has the volume. It's probably going to go back and do it again. Still wants to try to get back into this bar. Let's see if the FXC is the same. So if the dollar's going higher, I guess that's really a reflection of the fact that we're not going to default, huh? FXC can't trade into this bar. It's still hanging on. It's still hanging on. And that's what's keeping the dollar back. Let's see what gold did. Gold, I think, was pretty flat. Actually, it was up a little bit today, but not much. Actually, it was flat. You're right. So that's just not doing anything yet. It does look like it's It does look like it's trying to put in some sort of a little turn here and bounce back up, do a retest regen on that low, and probably fail, go lower again. I think silver looked the same today. I'm not going to go to that. Where's oil? Here's oil. Yeah, it's just consolidating still. That is setting up to try to go lower. And bonds. Bonds actually flipped around today and made a huge run. So when bonds go up, interest rates go down. That's what it's doing. This has been putting in a bottom for a while. I was kind of hoping it would get all the way back to here. It really just got to this big bar and held and got its big shot today. So that was the buy. I missed it. Hopefully some of you caught it. We've been talking about it. I thought it would get down into here. Just looked like it was going to try to, but that was enough to hold it. It came into there 2 or 3 times. It couldn't break it and just flopped it back up. And it's back over that, back into resistance. Got the volume. Now it's going back. It looks like it's going back to the highs now. So that's actually good for the market, and is a reflection of the fact that this resolution is taking place. So let's see what kind of questions you might have. Good evening. PEP did well. I didn't look at PEP. I did look at a couple of other stocks that are kind of retail oriented. Yeah, this is I don't know. It's not doing much. It is up. Had decent volume. You know, but I mean. Let me let me put it in so I can see the weeklies. Let me put it in the earnings. So PEP, XLV we talked about. That was another question, and yes, it did well. It looked like it should go down and it didn't, which is a sign of strength when it does that. So here's PEP again. Let me go over and grab the weekly. Yeah, see, so many of these stocks are this way, right? They're in a big range. They're consolidating. Now that consolidation, you know, you never know if a range trade is consolidation versus distribution. You know, consolidation is where things take a break. The trend is in favor of the upside. They go for so long that they have to take a break, and after taking a break, then they take off again. You know that after the fact, right? When it's happening, it's not always clear that that's what it is. Now, distribution, of course, is the opposite, and that is that you're going against, you know, at some point you're going to have distribution where the stocks go up, and eventually the bull market's going to turn into a bear. And when that happens, it's distribution at the top, not consolidation. The telltale signs typically is you get lighter volume as you distribute. In other words, prices come down, they're selling into it, the big institutions, whatever, and then they'll bring out some news and they'll probably actually turn around and buy some shares to get it going again, throw the news on it, get everybody excited, and then they distribute into it again. Right? Because they have large lines they got to get rid of. You know, millions and millions of shares, and so it's to their benefit that there be a long period at the highs where they can slowly sell out all that they want to sell out before the thing drops. That's distribution. It's not easy to read it, right? Or to read the consolidation until after the fact. And that's just a fact, right? It's not easy to make that read. And, you know, if you look at this is PEP again. If you look at this, wow, nice big run up, volume expands. Now you get low volume. Some would say distribution. But until you break down, you don't know that. Right now, it's just consolidating in a range. Okay, one more here, LLC or LCC. This is airlines, I believe, of which I'm notoriously bad at trying to read. I've gotten to the point I won't even trade them. I believe this is, yeah, U.S. Airways. So a nice big long steady run up. And this one is not consolidating. This one is broken out. So it broke out on multiple swing points on the weekly. It hasn't retested or regened. And also broke out on swing points on the daily the prior week. Yeah, it looks, you know, the hard thing here is, you see this bar? I have a hard time just going and buying something like that. If it can take that kind of a dump, I'm not sure I want to be in it. You know what I mean? It's just it's hard to take that leap of faith, so to speak. And that's probably one of the problems I have with these, is that they're notoriously bad about just killing you. And actually right now, and I was telling some of the members today, and so yeah, is it a good? Yeah, it looks like it can go higher. Is it a little dangerous? Yeah, I guess when it can dump on you like that, it is. One of the things I was telling folks is, you don't want to be in stocks that are somewhat weak. In a strong market, weak stocks are going to get pulled higher and look good. This is SCCS. This is Select Comfort. They came out with earnings today. I'm going to pull all the way back here to the monthly. Look at the volume patterns when you come down. Volume expands tremendously. And then again here, tremendously, right? And you go back and you see how they've been holding it up here forever? The lows, what is that, about 17, the highs around 34. So, I mean, that's actually a pretty wide range. If we go over here, you can see big hit, right? Here's another one, big hit, just like we just saw in U.S. Airways. Okay, what do they do tonight? They come out with their earnings. This is the daily. They're down, after hours they were down 27%. 1786. I gotta go all the way back. I can't even find 1786 on this chart hardly. There it is, right there at the bottom. And that big volume down there is where it's going to try to go, 1662. So it's going to come all the way back here, and if you're in it, you're trapped. You're not going to get out. As soon as earnings print, you're down 25%, and if your money's there, that's a 25% haircut. And it's probably going to be 30, 35 before you're done. That's the kind of thing you want to make certain that you avoid. You don't buy stocks that are showing bad patterns in a strong market, because the strong market will hold them up and make them look better than they are. And when I go back to that U.S. Airways and I see that big spike down, that reminds me of what I was just showing you over there on SCCS, right? Or, the Select Comfort. It's something you've got to be concerned about. And this one is making highs though, so it's a little bit different, but the distribution patterns don't look good. Steel group moving, look at X. I'm running out of time here. I did see STLD traded after earnings tonight. Let's look at it real quick. And I wouldn't be surprised if China's doing as well as they think they are. So here's STLD's testing highs, fell today. That one will come back, but you see it's at its highs, right? If we go in and look at X right quick to see what it looks like, one of the bigger steel holdings, yeah, it's pushing up into resistance, and looks like it will fell there this time. That's on the weekly. Let's go to the daily right quick. And I don't know when their earnings are out, so that would be another thing to concern yourself with. Yeah, nice big breakout here. So, it'll probably come back a little bit given the weekly and then go after it again. But the steel group, yeah, it's picking up. It's picking up because of China, just like we saw Rio Tinto picking up. That's iron ore, right? Steel's got to be, if the iron ore is picking up, probably the steel's picking up too. All right, I'm going to have to leave it at that. It looks to me like we're definitely going to try to test higher. You've been up big, really big, 5-6% on the indexes 5 days. Those are large numbers. If you want to buy here, it's tough. it's tough, even though you got a good signal today. If you've been leaning long, then you're still getting something out of this, and hopefully that is what you're doing, and that's what I've been talking about. We should be doing. If you're leaning short, well, that's a different story. I don't know what to tell you. As far as buying more, that's a hard call, and I'm not in there buying more. That's just not what I'm doing. So, this market will find a place to give us some sort of a turn, and then we'll be able to measure it again on a retrace and decide whether it's really going to run up until the end of the year or not. And that's where you have to put your money on that call, if in fact it looks like the right call. If not, then these ranges are going to continue, and we'll see this more of this consolidation / distribution taking place, and after the fact we'll figure out which one it really is. But at this point, I think you got to just hold tight, continue to lean long, err on the long side, and then at some point we'll be able to get a better trade on where the reward risk is better. Have yourself a great night. Thanks for joining. I'll see you next time. Take care. Good night, folks.